what prompted you to go from, more meat in the diet 5 years ago to full carnivore, I guess 3 years ago? What was the emphasis for that? Was there still something going on?
Yeah. So I was still kind of eating, I would say more keto. So I was still implementing like a lot of greens, like spinach and kale. I mean, that had been my diet for so long. So it's like, these are superfoods, got to keep them in there. And so I still kind of was having some stomach distress, no hypoglycemia, once I cut those processed grains out. But I was still having that bloated rock in the stomach feeling with all these greens that I was putting in my diet. So that kind of stimulated the, you know what? And then I found you on Instagram, and a couple other, by following Dr. Ken Berry, I found you. And so I decided to read your book, and I'm like, you know what, let's try this. Let's see if it gets rid of the stomach distress. I'm a believer in what I've done so far and putting the red meat back in my diet. So I decided to get rid of the greens, and that was the next step to now I don't deal with any stomach distress whatsoever.
Yeah. So, I mean, a lot of people will be shocked because they're like, well, the vegetables are so good, and greens and leafy greens, they got all these vitamins and all that stuff. But you were eating basically a clean diet, red meat plus selected superfoods, and that was still causing you issues. And so you improved that, is what I'm hearing. Is that correct? It's fair to say.
Correct.
And so, a lot of people will say, well, you can't train without carbs. You can't run, 800 meters. I mean, you need carbs to fuel, to have that top gear. Has that, compared to what you were doing in college, it gets 400 and 800, not the same race, but similar. I mean, there's a similar sort of thing. Is your energy any different? Are you struggling with this?
I mean, my energy is great. It's definitely a lot better than college, because college, I just remember going into practice and just having to pound carbs right before practice because I knew I wouldn't get through it without a bagel and a granola bar and a banana. So I was shoveling in carbs, and now my more endurance days, so I'll have a long run, which will be an hour. I can go completely without any food in my stomach. So I'll wake up, drink some water, maybe a little bit of coffee. I am a coffee drinker. I drink a little bit, but I'll just head out the door and go on a run I don't feel any sense of like, oh man, I'm going to bonk or start redlining, and I can get home just fine on those endurance runs. There is a couple of instances, like I'll use a carbohydrate for like jet fuel. So if I have a super hard lactic workout, or I have like repeat 300s at 800 pace, I'll eat like half of a banana or a little bit of honey. And so I do incorporate some fruit as jet fuel. I've seen it just really help with my racing. Definitely right before a race, my body just is like, okay, here's some energy, and uses it. But I just get fruit in. I avoid every grain. I haven't had a grain in years.
What, how are your times progressed since you started 5 years? Are you making progress still? Are you just holding your own, or how's that been going for you?
Yep. I've been making a lot of progress. So the very first time I ran the 800, because I never ran it in college. So the first time I ran it 4 years ago, I ran a 220. And so now I'm at a personal best of a 217. So, and with how my training's going this year, I'm hoping I can get down to that 214 range to really be competitive at Worlds. So Worlds is in March, and I'm real hoping to be able to medal. So usually women my age at the top elite in the world were about 215, sub 215 range. So, but there's definitely been a ton of progression because I'll still run. I ran an indoor 600, which is only an indoor race, but very similar to the 400. But a lot worse because it's not 200 meters longer. Yeah. But I hit like right at like a sub 140, so 139. So I still have that 400 speed in there too. So I think my coach is going to put me in an open 4. I run in college races, so I run against collegiate kids. So I'll probably run the open 4 too to kind of spin the wheels and see how that's going, because my speed is just progressing. So I can run sub 13. In practice the other week, from a standing start, I ran a 12.8 in the 100. So my speed it's insane how much better the speed part has gotten in the last 2 years. And usually it's like, that's kind of what starts to go away as you age, but mine is just continuing to get better. So we'll see.
Yeah. Interesting. Are you familiar? There's someone named Cynthia Montaloni. Are you familiar with her? Do you know her at all?
I do know her.
Yeah.
Yep. So I actually
yeah.
was on her podcast about a year ago.
Okay. Yeah. Cause she's used a heavily meat focused diet. And she said she usually before a race, she'll pound a big old steak. And I think she's a 400-meter Masters world champion. I think at the 40 or 45 year age group or something like that. And so it's kind of interesting to see a number of people. It's not a one-off. It's kind of funny because I'm, currently number one in the world on the rowing machine for 1 minute, which is about a 400-meter distance. Similar sort of physiology, it's that painful, really painful, horrible sprint time where you're sprinting and then the agony keeps going for another minute.
I know.
And it's interesting because I'm the guy, and then it was like number 2 and number 4 and number 5 were all in the carnivore diet. It was just weird. It was like everybody, for some reason, there's a coalescence of good times being produced in these ranges. Maybe it's specific to that, but I've seen that in a number of different athletes now. So it's really cool to see. Have you had any downsides? I mean, I was trying to be fair to say, is there any downsides? It sounds like your gut health has gotten better. Any real negatives to doing the diet? Cramping or sleeplessness or digestive issues or skin issues or I don't know, whatever might be bothering you.
Yeah, absolutely nothing. I mean, I haven't even had one hiccup since I've changed. Besides all the greens that I was consuming, like in the beginning of when I switched to keto, even through the pregnancy, I failed the glucose tolerance test just failed it. But luckily I think, Dr. Jamie Seaman, she was, the OBGYN at the same place that my midwife was at. And so she luckily told my midwives, like, hey, she's on a carnivore diet. She's going to fail the glucose test. Her baby's just fine. And obviously everything was perfectly fine. But I sleep great, 8 to 9 hours a night. No skin issues. My skin's only gotten better. I had a lot of acne as a teenager. Even into college and right after college, I still struggled with hormonal acne but obviously it was very associated to diet because I get 0 breakouts now. So no, absolutely no downsides. The only thing that I tweaked from going full carnivore to now is just a little bit of fruit.
Yeah. And no negatives from that up to this point for you, correct? That's fair to say.
No, there's a couple of fruits that do not sit well with me. And it's just kind of like a trial and error thing. So like, oddly, watermelon, and a couple of melon fruits, my stomach just says no, thank you. And so I just keep them out. And that's been the really cool thing about the carnivore diet is if I do implement something in again, like I think I tried a potato randomly like a couple months ago and just major heartburn from the potato. So it's like your body tells you immediately, I don't like that, which, when I was eating whatever I wanted, trying to be healthy, I wasn't getting a specific signal from a specific food. I just felt terrible all the time. Yeah. So that's the nice thing about the carnivore diet is if I do eat something, my body doesn't agree with it, it tells me immediately.
Yeah. Some people would say, well, that's just weakness because you can't even handle a potato. But I mean, in the past year, maybe you just always felt kind of crappy and you had nothing to refer it to.